What if the story of human civilization does not begin where we are told it begins? And what if the earliest chapter of our past was not primitive, slow, and simple but advanced, organized, and powerful, only to be erased by a catastrophe so massive that it reshaped the planet itself? Across the world, across cultures separated by oceans and thousands of years, one haunting story appears again and again: a great flood that destroyed an entire world. This is not a single myth born in one land and copied by others. This is a global memory, echoed in the Bible through the story of Noah in the Quran, through the account of Prophet Noah in ancient Sumerian, tablets through the tale of Ziusudra in the Epic of Gilgamesh, through Utnapishtim in Hindu scriptures through Manu, and in countless indigenous traditions passed down orally for generations. Different gods, different languages, different continents, yet the same warning, the same rising waters, the same destruction, and the same rebirth of humanity. Coincidence cannot explain this level of consistency, especially in a time when civilizations had no means of global communication. Modern historians often label these accounts as symbolic myths, exaggerations, or moral stories. But what if these narratives are not metaphors at all? What if they are memories of a real and devastating event that humanity never truly recovered from? To ask this question is to challenge the foundation of accepted history, because if a global flood did occur, then everything that existed before it becomes a mystery. And this is where history becomes uncomfortable. According to the mainstream timeline, advanced civilization begins roughly 6,000 years ago with agriculture cities, writing, and organized societies, slowly emerging from a long period of primitive human existence. But archaeology has uncovered evidence that does not fit this narrative, evidence that suggests something complex, intelligent, and deliberate existed long before our official starting point. One of the most shocking discoveries in modern archaeology is Göbekli Tepe, located in southeastern Turkey, dated to more than 12,000 years ago, a time when humans were supposedly simple hunter-gatherers, incapable of large-scale construction. Yet Göbekli Tepe contains massive T-shaped stone pillars weighing up to 20 tons, carved with intricate symbols of animals, abstract forms, and precise geometry, arranged in circular enclosures that required advanced planning, engineering, and coordination. This site was not built by accident, nor by a few wandering tribes. It was designed, organized, and intentionally buried, a fact that raises even more disturbing questions. Why would a civilization invest enormous effort to build such a complex structure and then deliberately cover it with thousands of tons of soil? Even more puzzling is the fact that Göbekli Tepe predates agriculture, meaning that according to conventional logic, people built monumental stone temples before they learned how to farm. A reversal of everything we thought we knew about human development. And Göbekli Tepe is not alone. Across the world, massive megalithic structures appear in places where, according to accepted history, they should not exist. From the giant stone blocks of Baalbek in Lebanon, some weighing over 800 tons, to the precisely fitted stones of Puma Punku in Bolivia, to the mysterious stone circles of Rejim El Hiri, to the ancient temples of Malta, humanity's distant past is filled with stone structures that defy easy explanation. These are not crude piles of rocks. They are carefully engineered constructions with precise angles, astronomical alignments, and advanced knowledge of stoneworking. The question naturally arises: who built them and how? The official explanation often relies on theories of primitive tools, wooden rollers, and massive labor forces. Yet no definitive evidence exists showing exactly how stones of such immense size were quarried, transported, lifted, and placed with such precision, especially thousands of years ago. In many cases, the tools supposedly used to build these structures have never been found, and the methods remain speculative at best. This leads to a far more unsettling possibility: that the people who built these structures were not as primitive as we assume. What if they possessed knowledge, techniques, or technologies that were lost during a catastrophic event? What if the flood stories describe not just destruction, but the collapse of an entire advanced world? Geological evidence adds another layer to this mystery. At the end of the last ice age, around 11 to 12,000 years ago, the planet experienced dramatic climate changes, rapidly melting ice sheets, rising sea levels, and massive floods that reshaped coastlines and submerged vast areas of land. Entire regions that were once habitable are now underwater, hiding whatever evidence of ancient civilizations may have existed there. Underwater ruins discovered near Japan, India, and the Mediterranean hint at the possibility that ancient settlements now lie beneath the oceans, inaccessible and largely unexplored. If a technologically or socially advanced civilization existed during this time, the sudden rise in sea levels could have erased most physical traces of its existence, leaving behind only the most durable remnants, stone monuments. This would explain why we find massive stone structures, but little evidence of the societies that built them. It would also explain why flood myths are so deeply ingrained in human memory. Such an event would have been nothing less than the end of the world for those who lived through it. The idea that ancient humans might have possessed advanced knowledge is not an attack on science. It is a call to expand our understanding of it. Knowledge does not have to look like modern technology to be advanced. Astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and social organization can exist without electricity or machines, and many ancient structures show clear evidence of astronomical awareness, aligning perfectly with solstices, equinoxes, and star positions. This suggests a deep understanding of the sky and the cycles of nature, knowledge that would have taken generations to develop. If such knowledge existed before the flood, then it was either rediscovered later or passed down in fragments through myths, symbols, and sacred traditions. This raises another uncomfortable question. Why is this possibility often dismissed so quickly? Science is built on questioning assumptions. Yet when it comes to the deep past of human civilization, certain assumptions are fiercely protected. The idea that civilization rose, fell, and rose again challenges the comforting narrative of linear progress. But nature does not operate in straight lines, and neither does history. Civilizations can collapse, knowledge can be lost, and survivors can start again with only fragments of what once existed. The flood narratives may not be tales of divine punishment alone. They may be warnings encoded in story form, reminders of how fragile even advanced societies can be in the face of natural catastrophe. As we piece together archaeological discoveries, geological evidence, and ancient stories, a new picture begins to emerge, one that suggests humanity's past is far older, deeper, and more complex than we are taught. This is not about replacing science with myth, but about allowing evidence to guide us wherever it leads, even if it leads us to uncomfortable truths. If a world existed before the flood, then our current civilization is not the first, and possibly not the last. The stones left behind by our ancestors may not be monuments of ignorance, but messages carved into the earth, telling us that knowledge can be lost, history can be erased, and that what we call the beginning may simply be a restart. And if this is true, then the greatest mystery is not what was destroyed by the flood, but what survived, hidden in stone, buried beneath time, waiting for us to remember. If the world before the flood truly existed, then the next question becomes unavoidable and deeply unsettling. What kind of people lived in that world? Mainstream history tells us that ancient humans were primitive, struggling to survive, barely capable of shaping stone tools, let alone constructing monumental architecture. We are taught that technology evolved slowly, step by step, from simple tools to complex machines, and that advanced knowledge is a recent achievement of modern civilization. But when we look closely at the physical evidence left behind by ancient cultures, this narrative begins to fracture. Across the globe stand massive stone structures that challenge our understanding of what ancient humans were supposedly capable of doing. These structures are not random, crude, or accidental. They are precise, intentional, and in many cases engineered to a level of accuracy that rivals or even exceeds modern construction. One of the most striking examples is Baalbek, located in present-day Lebanon, where enormous stone blocks known as the trilithon form the foundation of a Roman temple complex. Some of these stones weigh between 800 and 1,000 tons, making them some of the largest stones ever used in construction. Even today, moving a single stone of this size would require specialized machinery, advanced planning, and immense resources. Yet these stones were quarried, transported, lifted, and placed with remarkable precision thousands of years ago. The official explanation suggests the use of wooden rollers, ropes, and large labor forces, but no definitive evidence has ever demonstrated how such methods could realistically achieve this feat. Even more puzzling is the fact that the quarry containing even larger stones lies at a higher elevation than the construction site, meaning the stones would have had to be moved uphill, not downhill. The question remains unanswered. How was this accomplished? Baalbek is not an isolated anomaly. In South America, the site of Pumapangsu presents another profound challenge to conventional history. Here, massive stone blocks are cut with such precision that they appear to have been machined rather than shaped by hand. The stones feature perfectly straight edges, right angles, drilled holes, and interlocking shapes that fit together like pieces of a complex puzzle. Many of these blocks are made of hard andesite and granite, materials that are extremely difficult to work with even using modern tools. Yet the precision at Pumapangku suggests the use of advanced techniques that go far beyond simple hammerstones and copper chisels. The stones are so uniform that some researchers have compared them to modular components, as if they were mass-produced according to a standardized design. This level of accuracy implies not only advanced tools, but also advanced measurement systems, mathematical knowledge, and a deep understanding of material properties. Similar mysteries appear in Egypt, particularly in the Aswan granite quarries, where massive blocks of granite were extracted and transported hundreds of kilometers to build pyramids, temples, and statues. Granite is one of the hardest natural stones, and yet ancient Egyptians cut it with astonishing precision, leaving behind drill marks and saw lines that suggest the use of tools capable of applying consistent pressure and speed. Experimental archaeologists have attempted to recreate these cuts using the tools traditionally attributed to ancient Egyptians, but the results often fall far short of the precision seen in the ancient stonework. This raises a critical question. Were the tools we assume they used truly the tools they had? When confronted with these anomalies, historians often respond with a familiar explanation. Ancient humans were clever, patient, and capable of extraordinary feats through sheer labor and ingenuity. While this is undoubtedly true to some extent, it does not fully account for the scale, precision, and consistency of ancient megalithic construction. Ingenuity alone does not explain how massive stones were transported over vast distances, lifted to great heights, and fitted together with tolerances measured in fractions of a millimeter. Nor does it explain why similar construction techniques appear independently across different continents, cultures, and time periods. If these civilizations were isolated and primitive, how did they arrive at such similar solutions to complex engineering problems? One possible answer is that ancient humans possessed knowledge that has since been lost. Technology does not have to resemble modern machines to be advanced. Knowledge of geometry, physics, acoustics, and material science can enable remarkable achievements without electricity or engines. Some researchers have proposed that ancient builders may have used techniques involving vibration, sound, or resonance to move and shape stone, ideas that may seem speculative today, but cannot be dismissed outright without thorough investigation. Others suggest that lost construction methods involving organic materials or technologies that do not survive long periods of time could explain the absence of physical evidence. Wood, rope, leather, and plant-based materials degrade rapidly, especially in the aftermath of floods, earthquakes, and climate shifts. Stone endures, but the methods used to shape it do not. This creates a distorted archaeological record where the most durable artifacts survive while the tools and technologies used to create them vanish. Another critical factor is social organization. The construction of megalithic sites would have required not only technical knowledge, but also advanced planning, coordination, and leadership. Large groups of people working toward a shared goal implies a structured society with systems of communication, resource management, and cultural motivation. Such organization itself is a form of technology, one that challenges the image of scattered, primitive tribes struggling for survival. If these societies were capable of organizing massive construction projects, they were likely capable of preserving and transmitting complex knowledge as well. This leads us to an uncomfortable realization. Our definition of advanced may be too narrow. We often equate advancement with modern industrial technology, overlooking other forms of sophistication that do not leave behind easily recognizable machines. Ancient civilizations may have mastered principles that we have forgotten or undervalued, choosing methods that were sustainable, efficient, and deeply integrated with natural forces. The resistance to this idea within academic circles is not necessarily malicious, but it is powerful. Science operates within frameworks, and when new evidence threatens those frameworks, it is often met with skepticism or dismissal. Accepting the possibility of advanced ancient knowledge would require a reevaluation of long-standing assumptions about human progress. It would challenge the linear model of history that portrays civilization as a steady upward climb from ignorance to enlightenment. Instead, it suggests a far more complex pattern, one marked by rises and collapses, discoveries, and losses. The concept of out-of-place artifacts, objects that appear to be too advanced for their supposed time period, further complicates the picture. While many such claims are exaggerated or misunderstood, some raise legitimate questions that remain unresolved. When anomalies are consistently ignored or explained away, it becomes difficult to distinguish between healthy skepticism and intellectual avoidance. If even a fraction of these anomalies point to a deeper truth, then our understanding of the human past is profoundly incomplete. The idea that a catastrophic flood could have erased much of this knowledge provides a plausible explanation for why advanced techniques appear suddenly in the archaeological record and then disappear. Survivors of such a catastrophe may have retained fragments of their former knowledge, passing them down through oral traditions, symbols, and rituals rather than written texts. Over generations, these fragments could have evolved into myths, religious practices, and symbolic art, preserving echoes of a lost world without explicit technical detail. If this is the case, then ancient monuments are not merely structures. They are survivors, carrying silent testimony of a forgotten age. They stand as challenges to our assumptions, inviting us to look beyond the surface and ask deeper questions. Were ancient humans truly primitive, or were they inheritors of knowledge from a world that ended before recorded history began? If they were more advanced than we believe, then the next question becomes even more intriguing. What was the purpose of this knowledge? Was it used solely for construction, or did it serve a greater role in understanding the cosmos, time, and humanity's place within it? To answer that, we must move beyond stones and tools and begin examining the symbols, geometry, and hidden codes embedded within ancient structures. Because if knowledge was meant to survive the flood, it may not have been written in books, but carved into the earth itself. If ancient civilizations possessed advanced knowledge that was lost to catastrophe, then the most important question is not how they built with stone, but why they embedded such precision, symbolism, and geometry into their structures. Across the ancient world, megalithic sites revealed patterns that go far beyond practical construction, suggesting that these monuments were designed to communicate information, preserve knowledge, and align humanity with forces larger than itself. Geometry appears, again and again, as a universal language carved into stone, a language that transcends culture, religion, and time. Perfect circles, precise angles, symmetrical layouts, and mathematical ratios appear in structures separated by vast distances and thousands of years. From Stonehenge in England to the temples of Egypt, from the ancient sites of Mesopotamia to the highlands of the Andes. These are not decorative choices. They are deliberate expressions of order, balance, and understanding. One of the most striking elements found in ancient architecture is the repeated use of sacred geometry, a system of mathematical principles believed to reflect the fundamental patterns of the universe. Shapes such as circles, spirals, triangles, and hexagons appear consistently in ancient monuments, often arranged in ways that reflect natural phenomena like planetary motion, biological growth, and harmonic resonance. The circle, symbolizing eternity and unity, dominates many megalithic sites, suggesting an understanding of cycles, time, and continuity. Stone circles, in particular, appear across Europe, Africa, and Asia, their construction requiring precise measurement and alignment that would have been impossible without advanced planning and mathematical knowledge. The question is not whether ancient people could create circles, but why they invested so much effort into creating them at massive scales using heavy stone. Geometry is inseparable from mathematics, and mathematics is inseparable from measurement. The precision observed in ancient sites indicates standardized units of measurement that were shared and preserved across generations. In Egypt, the proportions of the pyramids reflect mathematical constants such as pi and the golden ratio, relationships that are deeply embedded in natural structures and cosmic patterns. These proportions are not accidental. They require deliberate calculation and conceptual understanding. Similar ratios appear in ancient Greek temples, Indian architecture, and Mesoamerican pyramids, suggesting a shared or independently rediscovered mathematical tradition that prioritized harmony between human construction and the natural world. This raises a profound possibility that ancient civilizations understood mathematics not merely as a tool, but as a sacred language capable of describing reality itself. Symbols carved into stone further deepen the mystery. At sites like Göbekli Tepe, pillars are adorned with animals, abstract forms, and repeating motifs whose meanings remain unclear. These carvings do not appear random or purely decorative. They follow patterns, themes, and arrangements that suggest symbolic communication. Predatory animals, serpents, birds, and hybrid creatures appear again and again, often arranged in ways that imply narrative or conceptual significance. Some researchers believe these symbols represent constellations, seasonal cycles, or mythological concepts related to life, death, and rebirth. Others suggest they encode astronomical information, mapping the sky onto the Earth as a way of preserving celestial knowledge across generations. The idea that ancient people may have used stone as a form of information storage challenges modern assumptions about how knowledge is preserved. Books decay, languages evolve, and digital data disappears, but stone endures. If a civilization anticipated catastrophic destruction, embedding knowledge into durable materials would have been a logical choice. This perspective transforms ancient monuments from relics of superstition into intentional archives of information. Geometry and symbolism may have functioned together as a multi-dimensional code, accessible only to those who understood its principles. This would explain why so much ancient knowledge appears hidden or misunderstood today. Without the conceptual framework used by its creators, the message becomes fragmented or lost. Another intriguing aspect of ancient structures is their relationship to sound and resonance. Many megalithic sites exhibit unusual acoustic properties, amplifying sound, creating echoes, or producing resonant frequencies that affect the human body and mind. Chambers within pyramids, stone circles, and underground temples often respond dramatically to chanting or rhythmic sound, suggesting that acoustics were intentionally incorporated into their design. Sound has the power to influence brain states, emotions, and even physical matter through vibration. If ancient builders understood the effects of sound and resonance, they may have used these structures not only for ritual, but for education, healing, or altered states of consciousness. This possibility challenges the assumption that ancient rituals were purely symbolic or religious. They may have been experiential practices, grounded in a sophisticated understanding of human perception and natural forces. Geometry, symbolism, and sound converge in the idea that ancient monuments were interfaces between humanity and the cosmos. Many structures are aligned with celestial events such as solstices, equinoxes, and specific star risings, reinforcing the connection between earth and sky. These alignments are not crude approximations. They are precise, often accurate to within a fraction of a degree. Achieving this level of accuracy requires long-term observation of the heavens, careful record-keeping, and a deep understanding of astronomical cycles. This suggests that ancient societies invested generations into studying the sky, not merely for agriculture, but for philosophical and spiritual reasons. The cosmos may have been seen as a source of order, knowledge, and guidance, and aligning human structures with celestial patterns may have been a way of harmonizing society with the larger universe. The repetition of similar symbols and geometric patterns across different cultures raises the possibility of a shared ancestral knowledge system. This does not necessarily imply direct contact between distant civilizations, but it does suggest that humans across the world were observing the same natural patterns and arriving at similar conclusions about the structure of reality. Alternatively, it may indicate that fragments of knowledge from a much older civilization were carried by survivors and adapted to new cultural contexts. In either case, the result is a global tapestry of symbols and structures that point toward a deeper understanding of existence. The reluctance of mainstream history to fully engage with these possibilities often stems from the difficulty of interpretation. Symbols are ambiguous, geometry can be coincidental, and human pattern recognition is prone to overinterpretation. However, dismissing these features entirely ignores the sheer consistency, precision, and intentionality observed across ancient sites. When geometry, symbolism, acoustics, and astronomy all converge within the same structures, the likelihood of random coincidence diminishes significantly. Instead, we are left with the impression that ancient monuments serve multiple functions simultaneously, blending practical, spiritual, and informational purposes into unified designs. This multifunctional approach reflects a worldview fundamentally different from our modern tendency to separate science, religion, and art into distinct domains. For ancient civilizations, these domains may have been inseparable aspects of a single understanding of reality. If this is true, then the loss of their civilization was not merely a loss of buildings or tools, but a loss of an integrated way of knowing the world. The flood, whether literal or symbolic, represents a rupture in human continuity, severing access to knowledge that had been accumulated over countless generations. What remains are fragments, encoded in stone, waiting to be reinterpreted. As we study these fragments, we must confront an unsettling idea that our ancestors may have known things we have forgotten, and that progress is not a straight line, but a fragile process vulnerable to disruption. The symbols and geometry carved into ancient monuments may not be relics of superstition, but deliberate messages left behind for future generations, warnings and teachings preserved in the only medium capable of surviving catastrophe. If knowledge was meant to endure beyond destruction, stone was the logical choice. And if these messages exist, then understanding them requires more than technology. It requires humility, curiosity, and a willingness to question our assumptions about the past. As we move forward, the mystery deepens, because geometry and symbols alone do not explain everything. The next layer of this ancient knowledge appears to reach beyond Earth itself, connecting human structures to the stars and the cosmos. To uncover that connection, we must look upward, toward the sky, and explore how ancient civilizations aligned their monuments with celestial forces, suggesting that their understanding of the universe may have been far more advanced than we have ever imagined. If ancient monuments were designed to preserve knowledge through geometry and symbols, then the next layer of that knowledge inevitably points upward, toward the sky, because again and again, across continents and eras, ancient structures demonstrate an extraordinary obsession with the heavens. This is not poetic interpretation. It is measurable, repeatable, and mathematically precise. From stone circles to pyramids, from temples to underground chambers, ancient builders consistently aligned their constructions with the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. This raises a critical question that modern history often avoids. Why would early civilizations, supposedly struggling for survival, invest such immense effort into tracking celestial events with astonishing accuracy? The sun's solstices and equinoxes were not merely observed. They were encoded into stone. At Stonehenge, massive stones weighing dozens of tons are positioned so that on the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the central axis of the monument, illuminating its core. This alignment is so precise that even slight errors in placement would have rendered it meaningless. Achieving such accuracy would have required long-term observation of the sun's movements over generations, careful measurement, and an understanding of cyclical time. Similar solstice alignments appear in ancient Egyptian temples, where sunlight penetrates deep into sacred chambers on specific days of the year, illuminating statues and symbols with uncanny precision. In places like Newgrange in Ireland, built over 5,000 years ago, a narrow passage allows the rising sun of the winter solstice to flood the inner chamber with light for only a few minutes each year, an event so exact that it borders on the miraculous. These structures are not random. They function as cosmic clocks, tracking time on scales far larger than a human lifespan. The repetition of this phenomenon across distant cultures suggests a shared priority, understanding humanity's place within the larger rhythms of the universe. Beyond the sun, ancient monuments also reveal deep connections to the stars. Many structures are aligned not just with solar events, but with specific constellations and stellar risings. In Egypt, the layout of the Giza pyramids has long been compared to the stars of Orion's belt, with striking similarities in relative position and orientation. While interpretations vary, the underlying fact remains. The ancient Egyptians placed enormous importance, associating it with the afterlife and cosmic order. This connection between earth and sky appears again in Mesoamerica, where Mayan temples aligned with Venus cycles, eclipses, and planetary movements that were tracked with remarkable precision. The Maya developed complex calendars capable of predicting astronomical events centuries into the future, a feat that required sophisticated mathematical models and sustained observational records. These achievements challenged the notion that ancient astronomy was purely symbolic or ritualistic. Instead, it suggests a scientific tradition rooted in empirical observation and long-term data collection. The idea that ancient civilizations possessed advanced astronomical knowledge leads to an even more unsettling possibility that they may have inherited this knowledge from an earlier source. If a pre-flood civilization existed, as suggested by global flood narratives and anomalous archaeological evidence, then it is possible that survivors passed down fragments of astronomical understanding through myths, rituals, and sacred architecture. Over time, this knowledge could have been adapted, reinterpreted, and preserved within new cultural frameworks. This would explain why similar astronomical principles appear in civilizations that had no known contact with one another. It would also explain why this knowledge often appears fully formed, rather than gradually developed in the archaeological record. The sudden emergence of sophisticated calendars, alignments, and cosmic symbolism suggests inheritance rather than invention. Another intriguing aspect of ancient astronomical knowledge is its integration with geography. Some researchers have noted that certain ancient sites appear to be positioned along geometric patterns on the Earth's surface, forming networks that span vast distances. While such claims must be approached cautiously, the possibility that ancient builders understood Earth as a geometric entity cannot be dismissed outright. Navigation by stars, knowledge of latitude, and an awareness of cardinal directions would have been essential for such planning. Ancient mariners are known to have traveled remarkable distances using celestial navigation alone, suggesting a level of astronomical competence far beyond what is typically attributed to early societies. If ancient civilizations understood both the sky and the earth as interconnected systems, their architecture may reflect an attempt to harmonize human life with cosmic order. This worldview blurs the line between science and spirituality, presenting the universe as an intelligible, structured whole rather than a chaotic backdrop. The question of how ancient civilizations acquired such knowledge inevitably leads to speculation. One possibility is that human ingenuity alone, given enough time and continuity, could have produced these achievements. Another possibility is that this knowledge was inherited from a lost advanced civilization that existed before a catastrophic event disrupted human progress. A more controversial idea suggests external influence, often framed in terms of ancient visitors or non-human intelligence. While such theories are frequently sensationalized, dismissing them entirely without examination risks overlooking legitimate questions about the origins of ancient knowledge. A neutral approach recognizes that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but also acknowledges that the current explanations are incomplete. The presence of advanced astronomical knowledge in ancient times is a fact. The origin of that knowledge remains an open question. What complicates the discussion further is the symbolic language used to encode cosmic information. Myths of gods descending from the sky, teachers arriving from the heavens, and beings associated with stars and constellations appear in cultures worldwide. These stories may be interpreted metaphorically, representing celestial phenomena or psychological archetypes, but they may also preserve distorted memories of real interactions or events. If knowledge was transmitted through storytelling rather than technical manuals, its origins would naturally become obscured over time. This ambiguity makes it difficult to separate literal history from symbolic narrative, but it does not negate the possibility that myths contain kernels of truth. Ancient civilizations may have understood that direct transmission of technical knowledge would not survive catastrophe, choosing instead to encode information within durable symbols, rituals, and architectural alignments. In this context, ancient monuments function as interfaces between humanity and the cosmos, teaching through experience rather than instruction. Standing within a structure aligned to the solstice, watching sunlight illuminate a sacred space, one does not need words to understand the passage of time and the order of the universe. This experiential knowledge transcends language and culture, making it an ideal medium for preservation across generations. The reluctance of modern academia to fully embrace these ideas often stems from the difficulty of proving intent. Alignments can be coincidental, symbols can be interpreted in multiple ways, and human perception is prone to finding patterns where none exist. However, when multiple lines of evidence converge geometry, astronomy, mythology, and architecture, the cumulative weight becomes difficult to ignore. Ancient builders demonstrated a consistent and deliberate engagement with the cosmos, suggesting that their understanding of reality extended far beyond immediate survival concerns. This challenges modern assumptions about the priorities and capabilities of early civilizations. If they invested so much effort into understanding the sky, it implies that they believed cosmic knowledge was essential to human existence. The implications of this belief are profound. It suggests that ancient societies viewed themselves not as isolated entities on Earth, but as participants in a larger cosmic system. Time, cycles, and celestial movements may have been seen as guiding forces shaping human destiny. If this worldview originated in a pre-flood civilization, then its remnants represent humanity's oldest philosophical inheritance. The loss of such a worldview would have been as devastating as the loss of technology or infrastructure. As we piece together these fragments, a new narrative begins to emerge, one in which ancient civilizations were not ignorant worshippers of the sky, but careful observers and interpreters of it. Their monuments stand as silent witnesses to a time when humanity sought harmony with the universe rather than dominance over it. This perspective forces us to reconsider the nature of progress itself. Perhaps advancement is not measured solely by technological power, but by understanding and integration with natural systems. If that understanding was lost in a global catastrophe, then our current civilization may be rebuilding from a position of partial amnesia. The stars that guided our ancestors still shine above us, but the knowledge of how to read them may have faded. And if ancient monuments truly encode a cosmic legacy, then deciphering it requires more than instruments and equations. It requires a willingness to accept that the past may have been wiser than we are comfortable admitting. As we prepare to confront the final layer of this mystery, one question remains unresolved and deeply unsettling. If ancient knowledge was real, sophisticated, and deliberately preserved, why is it not openly acknowledged today? Why does mainstream history hesitate to fully explore these possibilities? To answer that, we must turn our attention away from the sky and back toward ourselves, examining how history is written, controlled, and selectively remembered. Because the greatest mystery may not lie in the stars, but in the silence that surrounds them. If everything we have explored so far, the pre-flood civilizations, their advanced technology, the hidden knowledge carved into stone in their cosmic awareness, is true, then we must confront the final, most unsettling question. Why has this knowledge been obscured for millennia? Why do the histories we are taught remain silent about what may have existed before the flood? The answer is not simple, but it lies at the intersection of power, control, and human narrative. History is written by survivors, by those who endure catastrophes and choose what to record, and often by those who hold authority in later times. Academic institutions, textbooks, and mainstream archaeology have long curated a version of history that is considered safe, presenting a linear, comfortable story of human progress from primitive to advanced. This narrative is compelling, digestible, and convenient, but it may also obscure inconvenient truths. When evidence surfaces that challenges accepted timelines, out-of-place artifacts, megalithic constructions, unexplained astronomical knowledge, it is often dismissed, ignored, or attributed to myth and exaggeration. The reluctance to acknowledge the possibility of lost civilizations may not be malicious, but it is deliberate in effect. Narratives are controlled to fit the frameworks that society accepts. This has left countless mysteries unresolved, and a profound gap remains between what humanity may have known and what we are told we knew. To truly grasp the scope of these enigmas, one must consider the most mysterious sites around the world, places that defy explanation, attract speculation, and evoke awe. From the submerged ruins near Yonaguni, Japan, to the enigmatic stone circles of Rujing El Hiri, the monolithic structures of Baalbek, the underground tunnels of Turkey, the ancient step pyramids of Mesoamerica, the Giza Plateau in Egypt, and the mysterious temples of Malta, each site presents questions with no definitive answers. How were these constructed? Why were they positioned where they are? What knowledge guided their design? And most hauntingly, what happened to the civilizations that built them? Some scholars suggest these sites are simply anomalies, the product of extraordinary human ingenuity over time. Others speculate that they point to knowledge deliberately lost or erased, preserved only in stone, symbol, and myth. The truth may be a combination of both, but one thing is clear. Humanity's past is far richer, stranger, and more complex than we have been allowed to believe. The flood, the advanced pre-flood civilizations, the cosmic alignments, and the encoded wisdom are all threads of a tapestry that has been mostly hidden from us. Yet the pieces are still there, waiting for those who dare to question, explore, and connect the dots. Perhaps the greatest lesson from these ancient mysteries is humility, an acknowledgement that what we know is only a fraction of what once was, and that progress is fragile, vulnerable to forces beyond our control. And perhaps it is also a call to remember to look beyond convenient explanations, to listen to the stones, the stars, and the stories that have survived against all odds. As we conclude this series, consider what it means to live in a world where so much knowledge has been lost, where civilizations can rise, flourish, and disappear, leaving behind only fragments. What would it mean if some of that lost wisdom could be recovered? If we can study the past with curiosity and courage, we might not only learn about ancient civilizations, but also gain insight into our own potential, resilience, and the fragile legacy we leave for the future. If you have been captivated by this journey into the hidden past, the mysteries of the flood, and the advanced civilizations that may have preceded us, you can continue supporting this exploration. Like this video to let us know you want more. Subscribe to the channel to stay updated with every new revelation, and share it with friends and family who love history, mystery, and the unknown. Your engagement ensures that these stories reach more curious minds and keep the conversation alive. Disclaimer: this series is based on historical research, archaeological discoveries, and interpretations of ancient myths. Some theories presented are speculative and intended to provoke thought and exploration, rather than assert definitive conclusions. Viewer discretion is advised, and we encourage further research and critical thinking to form your own understanding of humanity's hidden past.